Okay, let's take a deep dive into something fundamental. We often walk into the workplace thinking it's all about systems, processes, deadlines, and deliverables, right?
Yeah, like just plug people into the machine and the work happens.
Exactly.
And the source material we're exploring today challenges that head on. It says, look, organizations are run by people.
Right.
And people, fundamentally, are driven by emotions. These emotions aren't just some messy inconvenience to be ignored. They're powerful forces, actually essential for pursuing goals, for driving
So
progress.
pretending they don't exist at work.
That's not just unproductive, it's a huge missed opportunity.
Absolutely. This deep dive is centered around insights from excerpts of a book called Connect First. Our mission today is to unpack the most important nuggets from these sources on how to build genuinely strong, effective relationships at work.
And the core argument seems to be you have to focus on fundamental human connection first. Only after you connect as people can you truly connect as colleagues, partners, team members. Do that well, and you build amazing teams and achieve things you couldn't otherwise.
And the author brings a really unique combination of perspectives over 30 years of experience, right?
Yeah, splitting time between clinical psychology, working with people on really profound personal challenges, and consulting for major global brands on complex management stuff.
That dual insight, the deep human stuff, and the high-stakes corporate world is fascinating.
It really is. So what you get in these sources are systematic strategies. They're grounded in real-world experience, but also backed by research.
From all sorts of fields.
Yeah, we're talking neurobiology, management theory, linguistics, even philosophy. Plus, the inspiration isn't just from the C-suite. It's drawn from incredibly diverse roles: farmers, factory workers, financiers, CEOs, support staff.
And here's a really compelling point from the book. The vast majority of the techniques discussed are simple, they're free, and often take less than 5 minutes to implement.
But the potential impact.
Seriously powerful.
And this deep dive is tailored just for you. Seriously, whether you're clocking in early on the factory floor, leading from a corner office, navigating cubicle life.
Launching a startup, analyzing data as a scientist, running a local shop, or heading up a tech giant.
Exactly. The power to influence your workplace, to make a positive change, lies with you no matter your title.
Which leads us to the winning mindset, the book Champions. It starts with the belief that you have the power to change your world.
That organizational change isn't just top-down, it really begins within, working from the inside out.
Your behavior impacts others, period, regardless of your role.
And the seemingly impossible situations, direct conversation often holds the key.
Quality interactions aren't just nice. They fundamentally change team dynamics and organizations for the better.
And it mentions focusing on common ground for collaboration, but also genuinely appreciating the differences that make your team stronger.
You actually can build the community you want to be a part of. And this is maybe the most critical point, especially now.
In a world that's increasingly automated, digitized, tech-driven.
Right. Staying connected to our shared humanity is absolutely essential. It's like a competitive advantage.
And the flip side is also true, and maybe even more surprising. Incredibly small, simple, negative actions can be powerfully destructive.
Wow. So the stakes are high for getting the simple things right. The book itself is structured into 7 parts, 52 chapters, lots of examples, reflection questions, practical advice.
And for this deep dive, we're pulling key ideas from the first 2 sections. Show respect and engage all your senses.
Okay, part 1, show respect.
Let's jump in. The source says that a huge but easily correctable error people make is simply messing up the basics of respect.
Just the fundamentals.
Exactly. Getting these right is more important than ever in our fast-paced, often remote environments where so much communication is through screens.
And it connects to bigger issues, right? Like engagement.
Definitely. A key insight here is that the significant costs of employee disengagement and turnover, they're often rooted in people feeling fundamentally disrespected.
So showing gratitude for everyone's effort, no matter their role or title.
It's crucial if you want others to genuinely support you.
That makes sense. And the book points out that because so much of our interaction is written now, emails, messages, chat, that digital communication is your remote handshake.
Yeah, it's how you present yourself, your personality, but you can't rely just on emojis to convey meaning.
You still need to observe real emotions.
Right. And even without constant in-person presence, you can still show respect by giving meaningful feedback and, where possible, autonomy over how people manage their time.
The source suggests excitement in your work isn't just about tasks, but about doing your best and helping others do theirs.
So if you want to feel better about going to work, if maybe you've been told you come across as a bit brusque or cold,
Or if your team is stressed, or you rely on people who aren't always in the spotlight.
this first part is incredibly relevant for you.
The very first technique discussed is simple. Smile.
There's a great Chinese proverb the author shares. A man without a smiling face must not keep a shop.
I love that image. It just gets right to it.
It does. The action is literally just smiling, and the book argues it's a powerful behavior that's often completely overlooked.
Why? Why is it so powerful?
Because it's contagious. The source cites research showing 80 to 90% of people will smile back when smiled at.
Really? That high?
Yeah. Even a forced smile, interestingly, can improve your own mood and change the atmosphere. Humans are wired for social connection. The book mentions that the strength of our relationships is the single best predictor of happiness.
More than big life events.
More than major life events. Small, positive interactions daily can actually build more lasting happiness than one big, wonderful experience.
And there's science behind it.
Absolutely. The source explains that smiling activates the orbitofrontal cortex, that's the brain's reward center. It also helps reduce stress, both for you when you smile and for the person receiving it.
Okay.
Plus, research out of Penn State found that people who smile consistently are perceived as more likable, more polite, and surprisingly, even more competent.
Competent just because you smile. That's fascinating.
Isn't it? And you see this in practice. The book shares the example of Oxnard Health System in Louisiana. They implemented something called the 105 model.
Which is?
Within 10 feet, make eye contact. Within 5 feet, say hello. Simple behavioral change, focusing on that basic human connection.
And it worked.
Significantly increased patient satisfaction and recommendations.
Think about that for your own workplace. Smiling immediately spreads a little happiness.
It helps you build a support network without even trying. It fosters a sense of belonging for you and others.
And it actually changes your own internal state, your attitude.
Right.
So how do you make this a habit?
Just start small. Smile when you walk into the building, when you're in the halls, when you enter a meeting.
A simple tip from the book.
Yeah.
Put your phone away when you're moving around.
Yeah, that frees you up to make eye contact and actually see people and smile. Try to be the first one to smile.
And if you want to make it genuine,
The book suggests thinking happy thoughts, or, maybe more fun, imagining funny captions floating above your colleagues' heads.
okay.
And kids do this naturally. They smile up to 400 times a day. There's something to learn there.
Yeah, the source does offer some important cautions.
Yes. Whatever you do, do not smile when you're delivering bad news. It completely undercuts your credibility. Sends a confusing message.
Right, definitely don't do that.
Also, like anything, find balance. Too much forced, overly cheerful smiling can actually undermine your authority.
Which the book notes can be a challenge, especially for women.
Yes, it does mention that specifically.
The case studies really bring this to life. There's one about Jack, a manager who was brilliant and meticulous, but came across as aloof and stern.
His team felt he lacked empathy.
Right. He consciously started smiling more, and it made a noticeable difference. People began initiating conversations with him.
Which then opened the door for him to show his more caring side. And another story is about Jimmy Briggs, a journalist. Growing up as a tall black man in the 70s Midwest, his family taught him to always look approachable, always smile.
He carried that habit into his career, even as a war correspondent.
But after hearing about the research on smiling and a photographer pointing out how serious he looked, he decided to start smiling again, but with a different intention for myself, because it feels good.
So it shifted from a defensive mechanism to an intentional act for his own well-being.
Precisely.
From smiling, the book moves to another seemingly basic courtesy, saying please. It sounds like something you learned in kindergarten, right?
It does, and you might think at work where tasks are assigned and roles are clear, you don't always need to use it.
But the source argues
That failing to add please to a request can actually trigger a subtle defiance, even in the best, most willing team members. It's almost like a switch flips, reminding them they don't have to do it.
That's interesting. So it's not just being polite. There's something else going on.
Exactly. The book gets into linguistics here. They explain please is what's called an IFID, an illocutionary force indicating device.
That sounds technical.
It does, but all it means is it's a word or phrase that signals the intent behind your statement. So saying do this is a command.
But adding please.
Which is a shortened form of if you please, or if it pleases you to do this, subtly reframes it as a request. It implies the other person has a choice.
Even if that's just like A polite fiction in the workplace context.
Exactly. It's acknowledging their agency, even in a small way.
Uh, and this matters even more now, I bet.
It absolutely does. Politeness and civility are crucial in today's increasingly digital and diverse workplaces, but incivility is actually on the rise.
Really? People are getting ruder.
The source cites Christine Poreff's long-term study showing a significant increase in reported rudeness over the years. And when people were asked what would most improve workplace relationships,
The top response.
incredibly simple, saying please.
Wow. So for you listening, adding please can help ensure you're not taking colleagues for granted.
It can actually improve the quality of the work people do for you because they feel respected.
And frankly, it can stop people from avoiding you because you come across as demanding.
Putting it into practice is straightforward. Just make a conscious effort to add please to your instructions and requests.
Combine it with a smile and eye contact.
Makes it even more effective. If you're working with international colleagues, using please in their native language can have a powerful impact.
And remember, this source points out that younger generations, like millennials, often respond much better to collaborative requests than to pure command and control styles.
That's a really good point.
Any times you should be careful with please.
Yes, tone is key. If you use please with a harsh or demanding tone, especially with service staff, can sound incredibly pushy or even rude.
Got it.
And like smiling, don't overuse it to the point where it loses its meaning.
The book gives this example of Dr. Suarez's dermatology clinic. Interactions among staff were getting tense.
Shouting requests, avoiding contact.
Right. Patients were sometimes rude, too. Dr. Suarez introduced the idea of being super polite internally, specifically focusing on using please and making eye contact when asking for something or handing over instruments.
And the simple shift, focusing on positive intent.
Genuinely improved the staff's mood and even patient satisfaction.
And I really like the story of Corey, an assistant working for Morgan. Their dynamic was generally informal and fun.
But at the end of the day, Morgan would just abruptly say, "Call me a car."
Corey felt like a servant, like his time wasn't valued. He took the step of asking Morgan respectfully to add, please.
He explained it wouldn't change the task, but it would make him feel less like just hired help.
Right. And Morgan, to his credit, agreed, realizing that their informal relationship didn't mean basic politeness could be skipped.
Okay, so we've asked politely. Now let's talk about acknowledging the help we receive. Technique number 3, say thank you.
This feels just as fundamental as please, doesn't it? But the source argues it's one of the least common acts in the workplace, and that's a major missed opportunity.
Least common? Really?
Apparently so. The action suggested is to use those little pockets of downtime in your day, waiting for a meeting, standing in line, commuting not just for social media or tasks.
But to actively think of someone who helped you that week and send a quick thank you.
Yeah. The book describes sincere gratitude as incredibly powerful fertilizer for relationships.
Powerful fertilizer. I like that analogy. Why does something as simple as thank you have such impact?
Well, the London School of Economics found a direct link between gratitude and productivity.
Okay.
And a Glassdoor survey found that a huge number, 70% of workers, would feel significantly better about themselves if their supervisors said thank you more often.
Wow, 70%.
And the great thing is, it doesn't just benefit the receiver. Expressing gratitude is proven to reduce the giver's stress and can even boost their immune system.
So it helps you too.
Right. The source shares an example of Mark Zuckerberg, who apparently made writing thank you notes a personal goal because he identified a natural tendency towards being critical.
That vulnerability from Zuckerberg is interesting.
It is. And there's that famous Oprah example mentioned. She gave a truly unique thank you gift to a senior employee, Jane Jameson.
The singing video.
Yeah, recording a short video of herself singing happy birthday to Jane's son. It wasn't about money. It was deeply personal and created a memorable moment of appreciation that Jane could share.
So for you, if you lead a team and worry about burnout, if you make frequent requests,
If you work with remote colleagues or supervisors where connection is harder, or if you rely on support staff.
this technique is vital. It's about showing you see and value their contribution.
So how do we actually make this a consistent habit? Practical tips.
The source suggests making it a daily practice. Think of one person you can thank unexpectedly. Keep a list of external contacts who help you in your phone.
Use your commute time for a quick thank you call. Plan your own Oprah moments, those personalized gestures, like framing a photo from a key project or getting a document signed that was significant for the person.
The key is sincerity and specificity. Don't just say thanks. Say thank you for X, it really helped me with Y, because Z.
Say it in person with eye contact if you can.
And don't delay. Acknowledge it quickly with a text or email, even if you plan something more special later.
Handwritten notes are mentioned as having unique, tangible power. The book even suggests creating a thank you kit.
A thank you kit, like with cards and stamps ready.
Exactly. And don't forget to thank your supervisor, too. They need it. The author emphasizes it's truly never too late to thank someone who made a difference, even if it was years ago.
What are the pitfalls? What should we avoid?
The main caution is don't tag a work request onto a thank you.
That makes it feel calculated.
Right. Transactional, not genuine. Also, a sincere verbal or written thank you is always better than an expensive but impersonal gift.
And tailor the thank you to the person. A team meal might not work for everyone. Good point. The book tells the story of Debbie, leading a team with an aggressive deadline. Team stressed, performance shaky.
Instead of criticizing shortcomings.
She shifted to expressing gratitude for their effort and sacrifice. Use phrases like, I value our partnership, and your expertise is vital.
And this shift in focus motivated the team.
Yeah, they actually ended up feeling proud of what they achieved despite the immense pressure.
And then there's the cautionary tale of Bob, the analyst candidate.
Right, he didn't get the job offer, partly because he failed to send a thank you note to the most junior person on his interview panel, Delilah.
The hiring manager saw this basic lack of courtesy as a red flag, suggesting he might look down on subordinates.
And a reference check later confirmed this pattern, costing him the job.
A simple thank you missed. Wow.
From thanking someone, let's talk about a very fundamental way to show you recognize them. Remembering their name.
Yes, technique number 4. The action here is straightforward. Make the effort to learn and use people's names correctly.
The source emphasizes that hearing your own name is a unique neural trigger. It immediately commands your attention.
And names do so much more than just identify someone. They affirm their existence, provide identity, grant dignity, highlight uniqueness.
Knowing and using someone's name is one of the most basic acts of respect.
And the book points out the problem. Too often, only the names of people in positions of power are remembered.
Support staff cleaners, receptionists, security often become invisible. It's a form of disrespect, reinforces hierarchies.
Even worse, the source highlights how foreign employees' names are sometimes deliberately changed by others simply for convenience.
Which is incredibly disrespectful.
Absolutely. The author echoes Dale Carnegie. A person's name is the sweetest sound in any language, and shares a personal story about asking a Russian colleague named Zana if she could be called Natasha because it was easier.
Recognizing that was prioritizing her own convenience over respect.
Exactly. Not making the effort sends a damaging signal.
So for you, making an effort to remember names builds immediate connections. It helps you avoid disrespecting others, even unintentionally.
It grants dignity. And it's incredibly helpful during times of organizational change when people might feel unsettled.
Okay, so how do we get better at this? Remembering names isn't easy for everyone.
The source offers practical tips. If you don't know someone's name, ask. When you introduce yourself, make sure you catch their name in return.
In meetings, make sure everyone knows each other's names.
Write names down if you need to, maybe on a seating chart or notepad. A great tip is to ask about the history or origin of a name.
Oh, that helps memory and gives insight.
Right. The author suggests creating contact cards in your phone for service staff you interact with regularly, cleaners, parking attendants. Maybe set a reminder before you enter the building.
For hard-to-pronounce names.
Ask them to say it slowly, record the pronunciation in their contact card, and make the effort to use proper names, not just nicknames, unless invited.
Any things to avoid.
Yes. You either know a name or you don't. Hard to fake it convincingly. If you forget, apologize honestly and ask again. Maybe reference where you met.
And definitely avoid workplace endearments like sweetheart or honey instead of a name.
The source is very clear, never appropriate. And watch your tone. Don't sound like you're asking for their name to report them.
The book shares a case study of Wayne, a senior partner who repeatedly asked his colleague, Aman, for his name 4 times, even while praising his work.
Just showed a lack of effort and made Aman feel overlooked. Completely undermined the praise.
Contrast that with Dr. Anthony Lechich at a Huntington's disease unit. He intentionally fostered respect by using everyone's name.
Receptionists, orderlies, nurses, patients. Everyone.
This simple act of personal attention granted dignity and created a strong sense of community.
And there's the story of Charisse Torres, a marketing director at Google. She'd meet potential partners in the waiting room, ask their names, offer drinks.
They assumed she was the receptionist because they didn't bother to ask her name.
Exactly. Their failure gave her incredible insight into their character. Lack of curiosity, lack of respect, leaving a bad impression before the meeting even started.
Moving on. Technique number 5. Give praise liberally. Mark Twain apparently said he could live for 2 months on one good compliment.
That's a great quote. The book describes pride as a powerful motivator, like rocket fuel.
Everyone at every level wants to feel useful, like they're contributing something valuable.
And acknowledging someone's effort and contributions genuinely makes them stand taller, feel seen, work harder.
And it's incredibly effective because, as the book notes, praise is essentially free.
Yet it's one of the most needed forms of recognition in organizations. It significantly boosts job satisfaction.
The key word is genuine, though.
Absolutely. False flattery is hollow, undermines everything. The source also points out that praising progress towards a goal, not just the final outcome, is highly motivating, creates more opportunities for gratitude.
It makes sense that people cooperate more with those who recognize their contributions, linked to Cialdini's work in influence.
Right. And the book mentions that managers often vastly overestimate how much they actually praise their teams.
Even leaders need encouragement. Heavy is the head, as the author says.
The goal is a humane workplace culture where praise is mutual, flows in all directions.
A powerful statistic cited. It takes 5 positive comments to recover the morale damaged by just 1 negative comment.
Wow, 5 to 1. That really highlights the need for an abundance of praise.
So for you, this is relevant if you feel confident in your own achievements, maybe take the spotlight a bit, if you're dealing with low morale or if there's a lot of negativity.
Practical tips for giving praise. Go beyond just thanks. Praise specific contributions.
Review your week. Who impressed or delighted you?
Explain why their action was important to you or the team. Timeliness matters. Give praise soon after.
Connect their contribution to larger goals.
Dedicate meeting time for shoutouts. Be specific and sincere. Link praise to what the person values.
Like praising community work if they care about that.
Create opportunities for others to share achievements so you can praise them. And remember to praise peers, subordinates, supervisors, even rivals.
Praising others doesn't diminish you. It shows authority and influence.
Right.
What should we watch out for?
Don't make the praise about your own success or how their contribution made you look good.
When you receive praise.
Simply say thank you. Don't deflect or argue. And crucially, separate praise from work requests. Don't compliment, then immediately ask for something.
Makes the praise feel calculated.
Exactly.
The book shares a great example with Paul Dayton, CEO of the London 2012 Olympics, managing 70,000 volunteers.
Coming from Goldman Sachs, where praise was scarce.
He intentionally focused on actively noticing and praising good work. This conscious effort, despite immense pressure, created a culture of respect and motivation.
And I like the story the author shared about praising her colleague, Jema Powell. Jema was creative, efficient, a problem solver.
Her parents weren't sold on her working there.
So the author wrote a letter to Jema detailing her talents, her values, suggesting Jema show it to her parents.
It wasn't just praise. It was tangible affirmation. Strengthened their relationship, helped Jema feel her importance.
And she eventually became a managing partner.
Okay, let's talk about a more modern communication challenge. Technique number 6. Reply received or understood.
This seems almost too simple to be a technique, doesn't it?
It does, but the book argues it's absolutely vital, especially with digital communication. The action is just that. When colleagues send you completed work, requests, important info via email or message.
Send back a quick received or understood.
Why does this tiny action matter so much?
Because in the digital world, it provides immediate reassurance. It confirms receipt, lets the other person know their message landed. There's a human at the other end.
It's a quick connection point, shows respect.
Right. The book highlights how the lack of this simple acknowledgement can severely damage trust. It triggers negative thoughts for the sender.
Why didn't they reply? Do they not care? Did I offend them? Are they ignoring me, holding things up?
Exactly. It creates frustration, unnecessary emotional stress people carry with them. Not acknowledging completed work can feel like their effort is disregarded.
Automatic read receipts aren't enough.
Not enough. They don't convey human acknowledgement.
That resonates. It's that feeling of sending something into a black hole.
Precisely. So for you, if you notice people bypassing you or coming to you repeatedly for the same info,
If you expect timely replies but aren't great at giving them, if your inbox feels overwhelming, or if you tend to tune out when swamped.
This technique is specifically for you.
How do we implement this?
Make a habit of replying immediately when you receive requests, announcements, reports.
Even if the message is long or needs time to act on?
Still reply immediately to acknowledge receipt and that you've seen it. Don't wait until you've finished the task.
For managing requests you receive.
Sort your inbox daily. Send that received understood to anything missed. If you get an inappropriate or unreasonable request, reply immediately to acknowledge receipt while setting boundaries. Prevents escalation.
And when you're the one making the request,
Use a clear subject line indicating the action needed. Put the actual request right at the beginning. Include a timeline if appropriate, not urgent, next week is fine.
also that tip about saving late-night draft emails to send in the morning.
Yes, good one. Nighttime clarity might not be great.
Any cautions?
Just be clear that received understood doesn't replace the full reply or action. Follow up with info or a timeline.
If unsure of understood implies agreement.
Clarify. Received your email. We'll reply later with my thoughts.
The book shares the story of Wendy, a reliable executive surprised by feedback that she took forever to reply.
She realized that while she responded quickly when she needed info, she delayed acknowledging requests requiring her to do work.
Her takeaway: even if she couldn't provide the info quickly, she should immediately reply to acknowledge the request and manage expectations.
And there's Yasmin, a senior job candidate, replied promptly to a firm's in-depth questions within their 48-hour request.
But received no acknowledgement from the firm for 2 weeks. Not even a simple received.
This basic lack of courtesy signaled poor company culture, made her hesitate about continuing, despite their demands on her.
Moving from acknowledging receipt to acknowledging effort and performance technique. Number 7, give feedback.
Essential. Everyone needs to know how they're doing. The source highlights that both giving and receiving feedback strengthens relationships, deepens connection.
Crucial for clarifying blind spots we all have.
And seeing someone genuinely grow based on feedback is incredibly rewarding.
But it feels like direct, constructive feedback is something people really struggle with.
They do. The book notes how rare it can be. People rely on interpreting subtle cues, facial expressions, meeting invites.
Fear of conflict, lack of time, feeling their opinion won't matter. Major barriers.
The source points out how often people know something is wrong but avoid addressing it directly. Even executives might avoid difficult conversations.
Asking others to deliver simple messages, like about the yellow backpack.
Exactly that example.
So for you, this technique is relevant if you want to support colleagues' development, if you're shy about giving feedback.
If you find yourself gossiping instead of addressing issues directly, if you need to manage problematic subordinate behavior, or rely only on annual reviews.
Practical tips for giving feedback.
Do it early, privately if possible. Assume good intentions. Focus on observable behavior, not personality. Offer specific suggestions.
Powerful tip. Actively ask for feedback about yourself. How would others describe me?
Using the feedback sandwich, positive, suggestion, positive can help. The book stresses your opinion does matter even to superiors. Leaders need outside perspectives, avoid echo chambers.
And focus on feed forward.
Yes, suggestions for future behavior feels less critical than dwelling on past mistakes.
What are the risks or cautions?
Don't make others feel inadequate or compare them unfavorably to your success. Shuts down motivation.
When you receive feedback.
Be gracious. Thank the giver for their perspective, even if you disagree. Tone and delivery are crucial.
Even simple corrections, like posture, can land poorly if not handled well.
And for sensitive feedback, like appearance, the source emphasizes tone and the strength of your relationship are key.
The book shares an interesting case study about the author herself, giving training to male British bankers in green navy suits.
While she, an American female psychologist, wore brighter clothes.
A UBS training manager told her clothing was too different. Initially offended.
She realized it was constructive feedback to help her connect better. Her red suit became code for intentionally bridging or distancing visually.
Another compelling example. Former NYC Mayor Ed Koch, constantly asking voters, "How am I doing?"
Simple question showed respect, invited partnership years before online reviews.
Seeking feedback from critics can turn them into supporters or neutralize opposition. Not knowing the truth is more dangerous. And finally, for part 1, Rita, the HR consultant CEO, angry about her senior employee Joe using company time for personal errands, spreading negativity.
Instead of direct feedback, Rita became passive-aggressive, excluding Joe.
Guided intervention led Wita to give constructive feedback, focusing on feeling disrespected and Joe failing as a role model, not just the hair appointments.
Cleared the air in a way passive aggression never could.
Okay, that wraps up part one, focusing on showing respect. Let's shift gears into part two. Engage all your senses.
Right. The source suggests this moves from basic respect to deeper awareness and connection.
And the premise is that knowledge is a competitive advantage. If you're so narrowly focused on tasks that you ignore cues from people,
You're operating at a disadvantage. Need to look beyond just words, the black and white world, to nonverbal cues, expressions, posture, gait.
these can signal much larger patterns or underlying issues. Shift senses from autopilot to manual.
Exactly. Truly seeing everyone, not just those deemed important. Listening with your whole self, not fearing silence.
Understanding what drives colleagues. Even eating together.
Paying attention to all these sensory inputs helps navigate toward goals. And finding meaning isn't just tasks, but creating shared moments with colleagues.
So for you, this section is relevant if you feel disconnected, if morale is low, if conflict is brewing.
If you feel out of the loop, if your workplace is changing, if you rely heavily on digital communication, or if your team is rarely together but has a chance to connect.
Let's start with technique number 8. Notice everyone.
Ties back to seeing people. The action is intentionally directing attention outwards. The book says attention is a major differentiator.
Averting your gaze ignores someone's existence.
But making eye contact, even briefly, creates a microconnection, affirms presence, worth.
The problem is many avert gaze due to awkwardness or discomfort. But turning away signals you are not important.
And in organizations, many, especially support staff, feel invisible. Not noticing them reinforces harmful hierarchies.
They might be invisible to you, but they absolutely see you.
That's a powerful thought. The book uses an analogy, comparing invisible people to invisible forces like dark matter or magnetism.
They profoundly influence the workplace, even if you don't actively perceive them.
Exactly. You might not think about cleaning staff until the bathroom's out of soap, or security until you forget your ID.
So for you, this is a reminder, everyone is important. Helps you become aware if you unintentionally overlook people.
Can help you get better support from service staff who feel more inclined to help someone who acknowledges them.
If you get lost in thought while walking, or avoid eye contact with strangers in meetings, this is for you.
Practical tips for noticing everyone.
Spend seconds making eye contact with people who help you. Daily door attendant, mailroom, cleaning crew.
In meetings, consciously scan the room. Make eye contact with everyone, not just the usual suspects or the boss.
Monitor where your gaze goes. Would you be proud if recorded? Avoid focusing excessively on one person. Broaden your definition of who matters.
Ask your partner roommate if you talk about certain colleagues way more than others.
Put your phone away while walking. Huge one. Expands vision, makes you available.
Walk with others. Focus on listening. They might introduce you to people, expanding your awareness. The core point. Who and what you consciously choose to see forms the basis for positive change.
Cautions.
Definitely. Notice, don't stare. Very different. Remove sunglasses for eye contact.
And don't touch someone from behind to get attention. Call their name.
The case studies illustrate the impact. Carol felt profoundly disrespected when her boss, Sean, signed her contract forms and just tossed them back without eye contact or acknowledgement.
Such a minor interaction, but led her to update her resume.
The powerful example from the favela visit in Sao Paulo. Executives unconsciously leaned on, handed things to translators without asking or acknowledging.
Assuming they were assistants.
Later discovered they were senior leaders from companies they wanted business with. Highlighted their habit of overlooking people physically present but outside their perceived circle.
Afterward, they consciously started interacting with hotel staff, acknowledging everyone in meetings.
From noticing everyone, the book moves to a specific way of noticing. Listening attentively. Technique 9.
There's a beautiful quote from Naira Waheed. I love listening. It is one of the few moments you are both still and moving.
Captures it perfectly. Listening isn't passive, it's active, full-bodied. Good listeners use all senses.
And we think we're good at it, right?
Usually overestimate ourselves. The source references Nicholas Epley's work, highlighting our overconfidence in judging others' thoughts. Key problem. We listen autobiographically.
Meaning, as someone talks, we scan our own experiences instead of focusing on their perspective.
Exactly. More focused on being understood than understanding first.
Reminds me of Stephen Covey. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
The book echoes that. When others feel genuinely listened to, they're far more open to hearing your opinion. Asking for someone's opinion and truly listening shows maturity.
So for you, this is relevant if you mostly hear yourself talking, if problems go unresolved because no one's really listening.
If your team isn't bonding, or people make incorrect assumptions due to superficial interactions.
Practical tips for attentive listening.
Practice expressing the desire to hear more. Please tell me more. I'd love to hear your perspective. Show you want to listen.
After asking a question, practice pausing. Count to 5 internally before speaking.
Be patient. Don't jump in too quickly to agree or disagree. Look for common ground. Be a generous listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves, maybe while walking or waiting.
What should we be careful about?
Don't make yourself the center by constantly talking. References Susan Cain's Quiet. You hear more if you talk less.
Remember, introverted team members might have valuable insights if you create space and silence.
Absolutely.
There's a great case study from a workshop on learning from failure. Participants paired up, speaker listener for 5 minutes, then switch.
Just having someone listen silently for 5 minutes led speakers to share far more detail, vulnerability, personal regret than expected.
Participants realized how rarely they truly listened without interrupting, and how dedicated listening uncovers ideas and identifies errors.
And the story of CEO Logan, inspiring in global meetings but wasn't listening to on-the-ground difficulties.
His coach arranged a 1-month listening tour, met small groups, all levels, just to listen.
Afterward, held a company-wide call sharing what he learned, outlining steps, acknowledging those who inspired him, profoundly infused shared purpose and connection.
He later found the employee cafeteria more interesting than fancy client dinners.
From listening, the book takes a step further into silence itself. Technique number 10. Be silent together. Chinese proverb. A cupful of water cannot take another stone.
Captures the essence. The action proposed. Introduce 5 minutes of intentional silence at the beginning or end of meetings.
5 minutes of silence, that would feel really strange for many.
It would, but linked to the Buddhist concept of emptiness, creating mental space. We rush into meetings with full mental cups, preoccupations, stresses, assumptions.
Makes effective interaction difficult. Silence helps clear the mind, focus, create space for new ideas. Meditation practices are increasingly adopted by companies.
So the benefit isn't just calm, but better thinking and interaction.
Exactly. Research shows even seconds of cognitive space before reacting leads to more thoughtful, collaborative responses, especially after tension. Silence can refocus distracted participants.
For you, this technique might appeal if you enjoy experimenting, if your team is high-performing but tends burnt out.
If meetings feel unproductive or people arrive stressed and want to leave.
Practical tips for implementing this.
Don't need to announce it way ahead. Welcome participants, explain the purpose, focus, mental space. Guide them briefly. Put down phone spends, sit comfortably, breathe, clear thoughts, focus on breath.
After 3 minutes, suggest noticing feelings. Room atmosphere, then 2 more mins. Maybe sync breath.
After 5 minutes, ask for feedback. Some might feel uncomfortable initially, be patient. Link feelings to desired meeting outcome, focus, collaboration.
If used at the end.
Signal meeting concluded. This is individual reflection time. No discussion needed after.
Cautions.
Don't overpromise results, just an experiment. If participating, stay quiet, go with it. If someone looks at you, gaze kindly. Even if not the leader, you can suggest trying it.
Powerful example from a retreat. After intense strategy, everyone tired. Hendrik Jan Lesueur led a 10-minute quiet walk outside, no phones.
Just a gift of individual reflection, shared presence. Revitalize the group more relaxed, energetic, connected.
And in a tense airline exec meeting arguing strategy, author suggested 5 minutes quiet sitting.
Participants enjoyed calmness, connection, asked how they wanted to feel end of day, calm versus tense, agreed to consciously stop arguing, create listening space.
Didn't solve everything, but gave a starting point, reason to self-regulate.
Okay, the next technique is one where the source adds significant caveats. Technique 11. Appropriate physical touch.
Yes, the book is very clear up front. Sensitive area, especially post #MeToo. Author states, if any reservations, do not do it. Appropriate is key, requires extreme care.
So given those cautions, why include it?
Because, when done appropriately and respectfully, touch is crucial for human connection. Skin is our largest sensory organ.
Appropriate touch activates the orbitofrontal cortex decision-making center, releases oxytocin, key for bonding.
Neuroscience shows touch alone can communicate emotions accurately.
Remarkably so, anger, fear, gratitude, sympathy highlights its fundamental power.
The impact when appropriate.
Significant. Studies cited. Brief, non-sexual arm touch increased petition signing, 55% to 81%. 1 second touch improved ratings of car salespeople's sincerity. Friendly pat on upper arm shoulder shows rapport.
So what are those critical cautions?
Must be incredibly careful, aware of context, culture, gender dynamics. Safest zone, generally upper arm, shoulder to elbow. Anything else riskier.
Pushing, lifting different. Hugging can create unwelcome environment, 2017 court ruling.
Core principle, respect boundaries. Inappropriate touch is harmful, traumatic, potentially illegal. If someone recoils, stop immediately, don't tease.
Don't touch from behind. Call name. Backpack can be power move. Avoid if unsure.
So for you, only applicable if workplace norms allow, and you're sensitive to boundaries and confident you can do it respectfully. Maybe express care if workplace lacks connection. High bar.
Absolutely. Practical tips very limited, focused on caution. Gentle, brief touch on upper arm to encourage connect. Light arm pat with, nice to see you.
Bookshare's author helping tense professor fix collar before stage. Brief, appropriate touch showed care, helped professor feel less rigid. Reminder, accomplished people are just people under stress.
And Kenzie Kwang's story.
Yeah.
Instinctively flinching when AIDS patient offered handshake. Despite knowing facts, unconscious reaction highlighted need for in-person interaction. Appropriate touch to overcome bias, show respect.
Powerful lesson in how unconscious reactions betray intentions, how intentional interaction bridges that gap.
Finally, technique number 12, eat together.
Perhaps the most universally relatable, action. Use mealtime, coffee snack breaks intentionally to build trust, reduce isolation, step away from desk.
Office life can be lonely, even surrounded by people. Crave connection, but glued to screens. Emails, meetings don't create same genuine collaboration.
And we're so focused on productivity, eating becomes solo task at desk.
Exactly. Fast pace encourages shortcut interactions. Productivity pressure means skipping meals or eating alone. Cited 2017 Gallup, 67% U.S. workers eat at desk weekly. Reduces job satisfaction, enjoyment of working together.
But sharing food changes things.
Really does. Meals provide less formal space for candid conversation. Gain insights, hear unofficial info, tap into hallway talk.
Eating together is ancient tradition signaling positive intent, deepens relationships. Taking time for food drink with colleagues, missed opportunity to gather info, expand network, ease tension.
And there's research on this.
Yes, Cornell study, NIFIN, on firefighters. Teams who ate together collaborated almost twice as much.
It's not just eating, but the process.
Collecting money, planning, discussing, consuming, cleaning improves team function. Helps understand colleagues, appreciate perspectives, natural openings for informal info exchange.
So for you, definitely relevant if you eat at your desk daily. Avoid colleagues at lunch.
Scroll social media instead of interacting, feel like document-generating machine, or curious about colleagues but don't know how to connect.
Practical tips for eating together.
Food is great equalizer. Personal preferences, culture, values, remote team. Gather for a meal when possible, office or home.
Potluck, one dish per person, keeps it simple. Encourage favorite childhood cultural foods.
Announce dishes beforehand builds excitement. Sharing food, baking brownies, pastries, dish from home, is simple, powerful care.
Small treats, humanize aloof leaders, ease tension. Ultimate purpose, opportunity to observe and connect.
So we've journeyed through some incredibly simple yet powerful techniques from the source material.
From basics of respect, smiling, please, thank you, names, praise, acknowledging receipt, feedback to engaging senses more deeply, noticing everyone, listening attentively, silence, appropriate touch, sharing meals.
And the core message. These aren't just minor courtesies or soft skills. According to the book, they're fundamental building blocks of effective relationships, therefore, workplace success.
Powerful, often free strategies impacting productivity, satisfaction, trust, morale. But require awareness, conscious effort.
Arguably more challenging, therefore more necessary, in today's fast-paced digital world.
By making a conscious effort with these techniques, you can genuinely transform your own daily experience at work.
Contribute significantly to better team dynamic, actively build the community you want, regardless of position.
The source leaves us with a compelling idea. In a world increasingly automated, technology-driven,
The most powerful competitive advantage, perhaps deepest source of meaning and fulfillment at work, might just be intentionally cultivating our basic, essential human connection.
so the question for you right now is, what one small, simple act of human connection will you try today?